Every option looking the same? Boring. Vizzy Hard Seltzer brings something unique and delicious to the table with antioxidant vitamin C. Vizzy comes in dual fruit flavors like blueberry pomegranate and pineapple mango. Each 12-ounce can has 5% ABV, 100 calories, less than 1 gram of real cane sugar, and of course, antioxidant vitamin C. Upgrade your hard seltzer at VizzyHardSeltzer.com/iHeart. That's VIZZY hardseltzer.com/iHeart. Must be 21 or older.
Introducing MS Journeys, a podcast series created specifically for people living with multiple sclerosis, brought to you by Novartis. Tune in for new episodes the third Thursday of each month at 7 p.m. and repeats nightly to hear iHeartRadio personality Scary Jones and patient advocate Kate Milliken reflect on the journeys of resilience and courage from people living with MS and so much more. MS Journeys will feature patients, their care partners, and experts within the MS community sharing their stories and insights. Listen in on the MS Vibe station or find it using the iHeartRadio app by searching for MS Vibes.
Thanks for listening to the Doug Gottlieb Show podcast. Be sure to catch us live every weekday, 3 to 6 Eastern, 12 to 3 Pacific on Fox Sports Radio. Find your local station for the Doug Gottlieb Show at foxsportsradio.com or stream us live every day on the iHeartRadio app by searching FSR.
Now let's get this party started.
You're listening to Fox Sports Radio.
Boom! What up, America? Doug Gottlieb Show, Fox Sports Radio. Coming to you from the Farmers Insurance Fox Sports Radio studios. When you switch to Farmers, you could save a bundle. All you have to do is call 888-FARMERS, and you can get a quote today.
We are farmers. Bum, ba-dum, bum, 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 bum.
Got a great show for you. Charles Robinson's going to join us in 2 hours. Yahoo NFL reporter, get his thoughts on many of the moves that have been made and the big story of the weekend, which we'll get to in a moment. Rick Bucher will join us in 1 hour. I want to ask him about these most recent comments attributed to Steve Kerr, and Steve Kerr kind of further fleshing it out. We'll get to it in regards to KD's last season in Gold State. And my man Nick Bahl will join us. We'll talk about the first weekend of the NCAA tournament. I do want to look, the tournament is what I was covering, and if you listened to the show yesterday, thank you. I thought Jonas and Dan did a great job, as they always do. They're great. I listened a little bit, and I was covering the tournament for the tournament partners at Westwood One. So my group here at Fox Sports Radio allowed me to do that. It was awesome. Just sat there basically in a studio with Jason Horowitz, and I've watched every game. Literally, I've watched every game. It's a powerful feeling, although it's one of those like, man, I don't have much of a life here. Anyway, watched every game. I'll give you my thoughts, some takeaways, and some interesting. But it's interesting, like, obviously, Oral Roberts, Loyola Chicago. It's going to challenge to see what the ratings are. But the topsy-turvy, bracket-busting, this is crazy, even though the level of the depth of upsets are more, it's still something we come to expect. The biggest story of the weekend to me is something we did not come to expect. What's the biggest story of the offseason in the NFL? It's the quarterback movement, right? Last year, it was Tom Brady moving. Of course, Phillip Rivers also moved. Jameis Winston went from starter in Tampa to backup third string in New Orleans. Right? Teddy Bridgewater switched teams. He became the starter in Carolina. The quarterback movement is the story. And Matt Stafford being traded for Jared Goff, but the big one was Deshaun Watson. This story is so massive and so hard to cover and discuss. Right? It's really, really difficult because so much of it is we just don't know. Then you see the volume of claims, and you want to be the person that goes like, "Hey, look, man, everybody deserves their day to explain themselves." But I mean, I want you to be honest with yourself, because when Deshaun Watson first leaked out through other people that he did not want to play for the Houston Texans, the story was from everybody is, here's a guy whose character is unquestioned. And I asked people in the NFL, and everyone said the same thing. Well, you're not going to question his character. He's an unbelievable dude. Unbelievable dude. Like, everybody likes him. Nobody has bad words to say about him. If you have something bad to say about him, it's about some of the red zone or holding the football too long, and the fact he's been hurt a lot, some hero ball stuff. Like, I'm like the one guy who feels like he can hold him accountable. Hey, we're only going to give him credit for when he does great things, but they had a 24-0 lead, and he was the quarterback in Kansas City. They lost the first 4 games of the year, and he was the quarterback this year. They traded DeAndre Hopkins, but they tried to give him a left tackle and as many weapons as possible. And you know what? Statistically, it worked. But if you think back to a month ago, everyone in sports media, athletes, agents, all of them questioned the Houston Texans. But, I mean, think about this. He went from they got to trade him to trade him. I don't know how he plays in the NFL. Right? Like that's how much this thing has changed things. So, that's how much this thing changes things. Crazy. Crazy, crazy, crazy. That we went from Deshaun Watson is going to be the most sought after trade commodity in the history of the National Football League, right? That was where we were even going back like a week and a half ago with the Russell Wilson deal. Where you're like, all right, Russell Wilson, he was 3 1s, a couple of 3s, and a couple of starters. And we're like, all right, but that's the baseline. That's for Russell Wilson, who's older and has 2 years left on his deal. This is Deshaun Watson, 25 years old, 5 years left in a brand new deal. Like, you take Russell Wilson's contract and then you go, all right, you got to sprinkle in a little bit more because that didn't get you Russell and that won't get you Deshaun. We went from that to you can't trade him. Can't trade him. I don't think the Texans have leverage. I don't think anybody has. Like, Texans have leverage only in him showing up to play football for them. Like, yes, now the only place he can play football in the NFL is the Houston Texans. That's it. That's the only place. They can't trade him. Because imagine if you're the GM who's going to make that deal. Like, you're going to make this deal for a guy who may or may not be able to play? Of course you're not. And between now and the draft, there's not going to be clarity on 14 lawsuits and 24 accusers. We've reached this point where he is untradeable. Like, if you're Deshaun Watson, you got to come back hat in hand and be like, hey, take me back. I'll do anything it takes just to play. Just to play a little bit of football. And I don't know how you let him play. The craziest 180 that I've seen in a long time. Like, is there a Bill Cosby element to it? Like, the depth of accusers is, it got to be really hard to find 24 people to come up with false accusations, isn't it? There'll be a text trail of some kind. And it's all kind of a similar story where, that happened, and there's enough of a trail with text messages where it's damaging to say the least. But think of the 180 in that the next shoe to drop, okay? In the NFL's landscape, what happens to Deshaun Watson? Miami, New York, Carolina. Where else? Chicago, I don't think so. I never thought so to begin with. Where else? Who could? San Francisco he wanted to go to. Denver. You think San Francisco could take him? You think Denver could take him? Regardless of whether or not anything proves to stick to him to be true. Like, right now, you can't trade for him. You can't move mountains for him. That is a no. Ezekiel Elliott, now, there was some film on Ezekiel Elliott, and he did have a past history in terms of what happened at Ohio State. But remember, he was suspended 6 games, never charged with a crime. in the I didn't see this coming, no one I know saw it coming, weirdest 180 in narratives of who's the good guy, who's the bad guy. Holy cow. This Deshaun Watson story is the most bizarre I can think of. And he has, by all accounts, earned some benefit of the doubt based on how he's purported himself in public. But I don't know, private like you? No idea. And speculating is completely unfair. But I can tell you that there's not an NFL team in the league that's going to go like, yeah, we'll trade for him right now. Doesn't matter how much information his agent, his attorney wants to give. He is officially untradeable. It went from he won't play for anyone but the Texans to, honestly, the only place he can play right now is Houston. And even that looks shaky. Dabo Swinney said, I love Deshaun Watson. He's like a son to me. That's how I love him. As far as the legal stuff and all that, we'll take its course and all of that stuff. We certainly can't speculate or comment on all that stuff. All I can tell you is I've known Deshaun since he was in 9th grade, and he's been nothing but exemplary in every area and I've ever known him in. 3 years here as a player, I think I had a chance to yell at him one time because he was 5 minutes late for a team meeting he overslept for. That's it. That's the Deshaun I know. I can only base my thought of experience based on my experience with him, which have been wonderful. Again, I love him like a son, and we'll just have to see where everything goes. That's from a guy who knows him well. Crazy.
Be sure to catch the live edition of the Doug Gottlieb Show weekdays at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific on Fox Sports Radio and the iHeartRadio app.
What's up, everyone? It's me, 3-time NFL All-Pro Sean Merriman, and I have a new sports podcast called the Lights Out Podcast with Sean Merriman. This podcast is special to me as I get a chance to talk to some of the best who've ever done it on the field or the track. So whether it's talking to a Super Bowl champion or a NASCAR Cup Series champion, the Lights Out Podcast will bring it to you the only way I know how to. I'm giving you the best insight from the best who's ever done it. Listen to Lights Out with Sean Merriman on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcast.
Good afternoon. Would you like to try a free sample of our double fudge brownie?
Oh, sure. That's very good. I'll just take one more, just to be sure. Yep, still very good.
Some things never change, like never being able to take just one free sample. And Geico saving folks lots of money on their car insurance.
Is that macadamia nut I taste? Let me take one more.
Sir.
Yeah, I thought so.
15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Murder in Illinois is the new iHeartRadio podcast from the producers behind Happy Face and Murder in Oregon.
You don't really need to see the crime scene photos to have your heart broken.
What started as a family road trip ended as a massacre.
Murdered children, a murdered mother.
3 children were murdered by the last person they ever thought would harm them.
My best friend lost her life and is not here to tell the truth.
He said, they just arrested Chris. And her first words were, but he didn't do it.
Did the person convicted of 4 murders actually pull the trigger?
None of their theories of how this happened fit the crime scene evidence.
I'm Lauren Bright Pacheco. Join me for Murder in Illinois, Who Killed the Vaughn Family.
So crazy. This is all so crazy.
Listen and follow on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Doug Gottlieb Show, Fox Sports Radio. Somebody named Drew Schiller, okay, said that Steve Kerr told Logan M. Murdoch he enjoyed last season when the Warriors were 15-50 more than Kevin Durant's final season with the Warriors. This was his tweet. The last year was tough. There was a lot going on. Some of you know about and some of you don't. That was very difficult. All right. So that's what was tweeted out by Drew Schiller about a comment that was made. Here's what Steve Kerr said on the Ringer podcast.
It was amazing those first few years, but that last year got tough. I think it's well documented. Kevin was not happy. Things just weren't as joyful for us on a daily basis. I think the grind, having been at the top of the mountain for 3-4 years, took its toll, and it was a real challenge. I enjoyed last season when we had the worst record in the league more than I enjoyed that last season and when we went to the finals, because we had young guys last year who were trying every day and working hard. We had a great energy, great spirit, great camaraderie, and losing sucked. But you want to look forward to going to the gym every day and seeing everybody. And that last year was tough. There was just a lot going on, some that you know about, some that you don't. And that was very difficult.
Right. So the quote is technically accurate, but does it capture the spirit of what he was saying? I think it doesn't, because, of course, Kevin Durant chimes in on Twitter, and this is the problem with it. This is the problem with all social media, is that in an effort to give us real, you're only giving us real from, a two-dimensional perspective in a short period of time when you see video of something. When you know history and background and context, everything does, in fact, change. It just does. So when you tweet out that last year was tough, there was a lot going on, some of you know about that, some of you don't, that was very difficult, automatically it brings us to the Kevin Durant, which Steve Kerr did say Kevin Durant was miserable. He was not happy. But he also painted the other perspective as there's a bunch of other stuff going on. I think that Steve, in an effort to be honest and to give us a full look of just how hard sustaining success is, probably stepped in a little bit here. If he didn't know how that would land, I don't think he's wrong for... Gavin, you said he ripped into Drew Schiller for that tweet. By ripped into, what did he say?
We have the audio of that.
All right, let me see here. This is Steve Kerr.
Drew Schiller decided to tweet today that Steve Kerr said he enjoyed last season more than Kevin Durant's last year with the Warriors. That is the furthest thing from the truth. It was a terribly unfair shot, completely taking something out of context to the point where people are going to read it and think that that was my quote. And to take that comment and put it into a tweet and send it out into the universe was so irresponsible and damaging. And I'm angry. It's wrong. Again, I try to be candid. I try to share everything so that our fans know what our team's going through, what I'm going through. This is really concerning for me. It's part of modern media maybe, but it's dead wrong, and I'm upset about it.
Okay. Dan Byer, what do you think about the tweet as opposed to the actual quote?
I think sometimes emotion can be not included in the conversation, so that's difficult to translate over to the text. I can understand why Steve Kerr is not happy.
Yeah, because I thought that especially the way in which it's written, he's just like, well, it's Kevin Durant's last year, where it focuses solely on Kevin Durant.
Yeah, which
is not. It's a portion of why there was unhappiness, but there was a lot more to it. And I think that I'm guessing here, as is like an educated guess, is more than guessing, is that there was a lot more going on than just Kevin Durant not feeling great about his situation. But because that has been documented, because everyone's talked about it, that there's no reason to let you in on other inner workings of an organization which might have been fractured. No reason to tell, oh, yeah, and by the way, these two guys hated each other. Nobody knows about that stuff, so we keep that in-house.
Yeah, and one thing if you define that season as Durant's final season, yeah, that's the unfair part, where, okay, if we want to go to reference, and sometimes you can't remember what year it is, or was that 2017, 20, like that sort of thing, you're always trying to figure it out, but you could always reference it by Durant's final season. So that sometimes can get messed up as well. It's just, I would be, it wasn't all Kevin Durant, but I can understand why Steve Kerr was not happy.
Be sure to catch the live edition of the Doug Gottlieb Show weekdays at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific.
Jason Horowitz, who I work with this weekend, his wife's 28 weeks pregnant, and we were talking about, he's like, what should I, going home, taking the red eye? I was like, well, get a bottle of wine. He's like, she's pregnant. I'm like, I am, my bad. I was like, well, get her a massage. She's like, yeah, it's COVID. She doesn't want to have somebody come over.
Yeah.
It's like, Okay, well,
yeah. So that's
I
the
don't
only
know. Watch
thing.
something on Netflix. I don't really know. I don't. I'm out of things. Most surprising thing, Dan Byer, you saw this weekend in the NCAA tournament.
Most surprising. I mean, the Oral Roberts one is something else, but I mean, really, I think it's just the lack of success by the Big Ten. I really thought that they were going to have great success, but how miserable it's been has just been shocking. It's for the most, the biggest headline from it, but I think there's a reason for it.
What do you think the reason is?
Oh, I mean, I meant like, my most shocking thing wasn't anything that hasn't already been talked about. Like,
do you have a hypothesis on why the Big Ten?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we didn't necessarily know as much about them because of the limited non-conference schedule. I think that was an issue. It's amazing to me, and just talking with buddies yesterday, when you watch like a UCLA or you watch USC and you see the types of players that they have, and then you see the types of talent that's in the Big Ten, and you're like, whoa, wait a second. So it's surprising. Maybe we didn't pay enough attention to the other conferences and what was happening around there, but just to see some of those teams and to see what the Big Ten has, you kind of look foolish.
All right, I have a hypothesis.
Okay.
We'll bring in Nick Boff, who of course covers college basketball games for Fox Sports and CBS Sports, and he joins us in the Doug Gottlieb Show on Fox Sports Radio. Bob, I want you to hear this as well. Byer, I think that what it takes to win the Big Ten, it doesn't take to win in the big tournament, right? In the Big Ten, and Nick, I know you've covered mostly Big East, but some Big Ten as well, and you live essentially in Big Ten country. You look at the top teams, and Kofi Cockburn at Illinois, and Luka Garza at Iowa, and Wisconsin has Nate Reavers, a starter. They have two quality big guys. Like, everybody's got a big hoss down in the middle, right? And when you get to this tournament and you play against other leagues, they have a little bit better guards than they have in the Big Ten, and they substitute the strength and interior play for length and athleticism. And I also think the Big Ten in the non-conference is a little bit ahead of everybody else because they have so many more returners. It's kind of an older league because it hasn't been as plundered by the NBA. Let me start, Byer. Do you buy that?
Yeah, I think it's very fair. I not only is it Luka Garza, it's Jordan Dickinson. You mentioned the big guys at Wisconsin, but just is there a Johnny Juzang in the Big Ten? Like the guy that can score on his own. Like, is it Jaden Ivey in Purdue? Is that like the best that the Big Ten has?
He can't shoot. I don't know. What do you think, Bob? What do you think of that idea?
Yeah, I mean, I like, it's funny what you were saying. I was saying the same thing, just on the opposite way. That I just think it comes back to elite guard play. Like, in all reality, Doug, outside of Ayo Dosunmu, and this isn't meant to be negative towards Demetric Trice or even a guy like Joe Wieskamp. What guard in the Big Ten are you just terrified of outside of Dosunmu? And even you found out in that Loyola game, like, Dosunmu does have some limitations. Like, he's very right hand dominant. He still isn't the best contested jump shot maker from beyond the arc. So I think it all comes back to that. I mean, it's the old cliche, guard play wins in March, and the reality is the way the Big Ten is constructed, they're constructed from the interior out. So I don't want to be disingenuous. Like, I had Ohio State making it to the Elite Eight just because I thought they had toughness, and I think Holtman can really coach. So I don't want to be disingenuous and sit there and be like, I'm not surprised at all to see all the carnage that took place in the Big Ten. But at the same time, I wasn't chugging the Big Ten Kool-Aid the way maybe everybody else was.
Well, here's what's fascinating about the tournament, though, right, is we'll do this thing where we'll crush the Big Ten. Like, Ohio State, Michigan State, they both had the ball, end of regulation, tie game, a chance to win it, right? And Purdue, if they make a free throw in overtime, they win the game. Whereas Creighton, who was great last night, like, probably should lose the first game, right? They just should. They didn't, they very much could have lost the first game. They survive. Now they get a favorable draw. And you're like, well, the Big East is amazing. Like, okay, We have a tendency to overreact to a loss here, a loss there. I do understand the Big Ten, we're told it's so dominant now there's one team left, is crazy, but I don't want to freak out over some very random results. Texas wins the Big 12 tournament, and as much as it's got to be embarrassing to lose to Abilene Christian, let's be honest, kind of fluky the way they lost. They block a shot and a kid gets a rebound, and it did look like a foul, but it didn't have to be called. Otherwise, Texas is still playing today, probably, or maybe not. But I don't know how they probably play well against UCLA. It is crazy on how these random ends to a game end up determining what we think about an entire league for an entire season.
Totally agree, and it's the same thing we love about the tournament is the same thing that makes it kind of dumb. It is. I would say on an entertainment scale, it's a 10 out of 10. And on the scale of the best method to crown the best team, it's like a 2 out of 10. There's a reason, Doug, in the NBA, they play 7-game series. Because how it is, for 40 minutes in basketball, maybe more so than any other sport, anything can happen. And, you look at, I heard Dan talking about Oral Roberts. Look at Oral Roberts finished fourth in the Summit League. Had to win basically at the buzzer in the Summit League Finals against North Dakota State. Now they're in the Sweet 16. Are they any better or worse than they were all throughout the season? I don't know, but that's the beauty of the tournament. Flip that for the other way with the Big Ten. If Miles Johnson against Rutgers, or for Rutgers against Houston, he has a dunk with a little under 4 minutes left that would have made it a 10-point game.
Game over.
Instead, he misses the dunk. Game over, right? Instead, Houston then comes down the floor, they bang a three, and here we go. And now they're at home, and Houston's moved on. So it's kind of the nature of the tournament that I hate that we kind of render everything you do meaningless or irrelevant if you don't get it done in the tournament. But I guess that's what we all sign up for,
Yeah, that is in fact the sport. I thought with Porter Moser, and I understand, I want to make sure you give credit to the players because they executed the game plan. But I don't even know what day is today's Tuesday. I've been in a, I did the Westwood One thing. So I was in a studio. I watched every game. And so I don't know what day it was, but I think the Illinois game was 2 days ago, right? So that was Sunday.
I think so. Yeah.
That was a clinic, an absolute. So here's the question with Porter Moser. Okay. The Marquette job's open. The Indiana job's open. Or he could stay exactly where he is. Now, Marquette, people's like, well, why would you do Marquette? Well, it's also a private school. It makes everything easier. Marquette has the third largest budget of any college basketball program in the country. They play in an NBA arena. They have their own on-campus practice facility. They got Jordan Brand. They got Hall of Famers and pros that come back and support the program as well. They got all these things. And the Big East, it's a little bit easier to compete immediately in the Big East than it would be in the Big Ten. Or, I don't know if Indiana wants them, but I don't know why they wouldn't. Right? Or you could do Indiana, which has gigantic and redone facilities, but ridiculous expectations and a harder league. Or you could stay where you are, try and build the Gonzaga of the Valley in the city of Chicago. If you go, what would you do? 1, 2, or 3 in those in order?
Man, I think it comes back to I wonder if Coach Moser thinks that this group with Cameron Krutwig, this group was the group. He's not going to be able to recreate it. This was the group that was going to absolutely hit the ceiling and maximize what Loyola can be, or is this something that's replicable? Does he feel like he can go then recruit, plug and play? He's got his system, and now, like you referenced with Gonzaga, where now Mark Few, it took a while, but now he's got this thing into a monster where they're on the brink of being legends. I don't know. Because that's always my thing with certain mid-majors in jumping to that perceived better job, which I think we both agree that Marquette and Indiana are quote-unquote better jobs. But does Loyola not afford Porter Moser the ability to achieve what he wants to achieve? That's on the surface you go, well, of course not. But they just went to a Final Four a couple years ago. They're now in the Sweet 16. They might go to another one. So there kind of hits a point where it's like, okay, well, what is it that Loyola isn't giving you other than maybe a bigger paycheck on the basketball court? So if I were Porter Moser, and only he can answer that question, I would think long and hard about jumping on the big fat paycheck or jumping to the perceived bigger, better program. Because, man, you know this, Doug, we've seen plenty of great mid-major coaches take that perceived better job, and all of a sudden it's not all that much, all it's cracked up to be. And before you know it, they're fired in a couple of years, and now they're kind of sitting there twiddling their thumbs going, well, what's my next move? So how you like my non-answer there, but I guess like only he can, like the answer to those questions should answer his question. And to me, if I were him, am I crazy to think that I'd maybe be more attracted to the Marquette job from the standpoint of scrutiny, can win easier in the Big East right away. You got, it's a private school. You referenced the funding and how it's top 5 nationally. There's a part of me that feels like I'd be more attracted to the Marquette job if I feel like Loyola can't provide all those other things.
All right. So again, if it's you, let's just say it's you. And I know we don't have all the information what it's like to work there. If it's you, 1, 2, or 3, go.
Man,
can I help you?
Yeah, help me out.
See, here's where the Butler job became a better and a worse job. They went into the Big East, which brings in bigger names to fill Hinkle, but you're still recruiting Horizon or A10 level players. It's really hard. That was what was hard for Loyola is they got into the Valley, and the Valley had better players than the Horizon when they got into it, right? Now they have the best players in the Valley, so you're good. I would say as long as it's a better job if you tell me we're not going to leave the Valley. If you tell me now we're going to leave the Valley, there's limitations there, but there's also benefits there to being the best. You can chalk up 16 wins, and you can start playing better out of conference. You can start doing the Gonzaga thing. I think that everyone wants to presidents and ADs want to jump leagues to help, fill up their pockets with better TV money, but that makes your job infinitely more difficult.
Great. It's a great way to put it, Doug. And I think that unless you're going to a no-brainer job, Duke, Carolina, Kansas, like a job where it's like that phone rings and you're like, yes, the answer is yes.
Why isn't Indiana a no-brainer job?
See, that's what I was going to ask you. There's something, maybe because there's something maybe with that program that feels like it isn't anymore. And I don't know what to chalk that up to. I don't know because I'm in Nebraska football country, and I think there are some parallels between Indiana and Nebraska where they're a little bit, I don't want to say stuck in the past, but I think they need to realize that there needs to be maybe a little bit longer of a runway to get things rolling before you can expect things to click at that high level. So I think what I was going to say was that unless you're getting that call to the blue blood, whenever you're at the top job in your conference, be real careful about leaving. And I think you can make a case that now Loyola is arguably the best basketball school in the Valley, and whenever you can be the top dog, and I don't care if you're in the Valley or whatever, you better be careful about leaving that top spot.
Your boys from Creighton looked good last night. Likelihood they pull off an upset against Gonzaga?
I mean, listen, not good. I don't want to be the Blue Jay that comes on here and calls for the Creighton upset, but I will say this. I mean, you got to be able to score to beat Gonzaga, right? You're not gonna grind them down. Like that's not gonna happen. And Creighton can score. So I mean, can Ballock and match Kispert's threes? Maybe. Can Zagorowski match Suggs scoring the ball? Maybe. I mean, so I think if you're looking at a team that is built to be able to at least kind of score with Gonzaga, Creighton is that team. Now, the dude that I don't think they're going to have any answer for is Drew Timme. I just think he's going to have a field day. Christian Bishop's foul prone. The backup is a 7-foot freshman, Kalkbrenner, who's kind of hit a wall. But the other thing, and you know this, like Creighton, the first 2 games, they were able, and you can do this against mid-majors, against UC Santa Barbara and Ohio. They sent 2 and doubled Ja'Cory McLaughlin and doubled Jason Preston. And they said, all right, other 4 guys, you're gonna have to win 4 on 3. You're gonna have to make all the shots, all the decisions, handle the ball. I don't think you can do that against Gonzaga. You're going to double Jalen Suggs, and he's going to throw out of it, and now it's Nembhard, it's Ayayi, it's Kispert and Timmy playing 4-on-3. They're going to hang 115 points on you. So I guess I'll be interested to see how Creighton – they've had a ton of success the first 2 rounds with that kind of school of thought of a defensive game plan and just taking away one guy. It's harder to do that when you play a great team like Gonzaga. So ultimately, I think it's a shootout because I think Creighton's going to say, to hell with it. Let's run with these guys because that's how we're built. But
Agreed.
I think Gonzaga pulls away, obviously.
I would agree. I think it'll be a wildly entertaining game that Gonzaga at some point gets up 5, up 7, up 10, up 11, and you're going to walk away going, Creighton didn't play bad. They just didn't have as many weapons, right? Nick By's got his own podcast. Of course, you see him on Fox Sports covering college hoop. Great to catch up, brother. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, Doug.
Be sure to catch the live edition of the Doug Gottlieb Show weekdays at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific.
The only thing better than grinding all night for your side hustle is your roommate picking you up with Mickey D's breakfast. The perfect pickup deal.
There's a deal for every morning at McDonald's.
Right now, taste breakfast perfection when you get a warm and savory sausage McMuffin with egg for just $2.50. Price and participation may vary. Cannot be combined with combo meal.
You know about Prince, Biggie, Mick Jagger, Dusty Springfield, Marvin Gaye, Miles Davis. But this isn't about them. This is about a girl. A podcast about women whose stories have been eclipsed by the legends of their famous partners. I'm Nikki Lynette, the host of About a Girl, Season 2. I'm a performer, writer, and visual artist, and I know a thing or two about complex women. That's why I'm so excited to tell you these amazing true stories of 12 people who helped shape some of the greatest music of the modern era. These are women whose lives were profoundly affected, but not defined by their relationships to larger-than-life icons. They inspired, and they were inspired. And they are all coming at you in Season 2 of About a Girl. About a Girl is produced by Double Elvis in partnership with iHeartRadio. Listen to About a Girl on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
iHeartRadio presents.
That's the scene right now from Los Angeles, which hours ago suffered the largest earthquake in North American history.
A new dramatic thriller.
As far as we can tell, the earthquake somehow raised a new landmass out here.
Starring Sarah Wayne Callies.
I gotta get out there. That's my girl.
We're spread as thin as
No, but she's out there on that island.
Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
There are corpses all over the Southland. This isn't a conspiracy, it's a natural disaster.
And David Harbour.
It's dangerous out there.
I don't care. I have to go get her.
All right, I get it. You want company?
You'll go to the island?
Aftershock.
What did I tell you? This is a good place. People find each other here.
There are 24 dead bodies rotting in a pile and 2 survivors.
You're sure that there's 8 volunteers willing to get shot before the rest of you could stop us?
Cassie, get the gun.
Aftershock. Listen and follow on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is Doug Gottlieb Show, live in the Farmers Insurance Fox Sports Radio studios. Call Farmers today for a quote. Every day this time, the Doug Gottlieb Show, we like to get you caught up on stories of the day. We do so by playing a game.
Game time! This is Game Time.
It's game time.
On the Doug Gottlieb Show.
Hustler Turf is the most complete lineup of residential and commercial zero-turn lawnmowers in the industry. And with over 1,000 dealers across the nation, there's a Hustler Turf dealer near you. Visit hustlerturf.com. That's hustlerturf.com. Dan Byer, what's the game?
Doug, the game today is...
Rank 'em.
All right, Doug, rank the 3 most impressive teams so far in the NCAA tournament.
3 most impressive teams. Impressive teams. I would say Gonzaga 1. Loyola of Chicago 2, Baylor 3.
Okay. Doug, rank the 3 most...
Syracuse pretty impressive, too, with what they've done.
Yeah, I was actually surprised you didn't have USC or UCLA on
I was. Well, UCLA, I thought they got better, but I also thought their competition got easier as they went on, right? Whereas, and look, Oregon, we only saw them once, and they were awesome. I don't know how much not having the first game changed them and made them fresher and harder to guard. So there's a bunch to it.
Sure. Doug, rank the 3 most disappointing teams in the tournament.
Illinois is 1, Texas is 2, and I'd say Ohio State is 3. Three teams that had a chance to, and Oklahoma State would be on that list. I wasn't as high on Oklahoma State in terms of reaching the Final Four. I did think obviously the bracket opened up for them, but I think considering what they had to face, right? You got Liberty and Oregon State to get to a Sweet 16. You trail Oregon State essentially the entire game. It was a disappointing game. But I would say Illinois. What would I say? Illinois, Texas and Ohio State. Yeah.
Doug, rank the 3 best defenders you've seen in your life in the NBA, because this is on the heels of Draymond Green saying that he believes that he's the best defensive player in NBA history.
Okay. Dennis Rodman won. I think Dennis Rodman was a more athletic version of Draymond Green in his day. That's 1. I would say Kawhi Leonard 2. He's as a superstar, he's the best. He and Jordan are the 2 best or whatever. And I will do Rudy Gobert is 3.
Okay. All right. Doug,
Rudy Gobert. Because I don't think people understand how hard it is to do what Rudy Gobert does, where essentially almost every time down the court, you want to put him in some action where a guy is coming downhill at him, and it's like a 2-on-1 every time. It's really, really hard. I think what Draymond's a transformative defender. That's what he is, more than the best defender.
Doug, rank the 3 best teams in the West, now with LeBron out of action for the Lakers. You can put the Lakers in this. They are right now in the 3 spot in the West, but Jazz are currently best record in the conference, followed by the Suns, then the Lakers, then Clips, Nuggets, Blazers, Spurs, and Mavericks.
What am I supposed to do? Rank what?
Who do you think the top 3 teams are right now in the West with LeBron out with his injury?
Oh, currently?
Yep.
As the rosters are currently comprised?
Correct, at this second.
I don't know who's playing for the Clippers, but I would say Clippers 1, Jazz 2, Nuggets 3.
All right. And finally, Doug, rank the best March Madness meal or snack. What's the best to watch March Madness?
Oh, man. I got to rank them?
Wings, pizza,
Wings, beer, sports.
What's that?
Wow. I would go pizza 3, burgers 2, wings 1.
That's game, huh?
Game time.
This is Game Time on the Doug Gottlieb Show.
Fire, your wing sauce is what? What do you like dry? Do you like wet? Do you like?
Yeah, I like them wet. Honey barbecue is a nice one from across the street.
Sure.
I don't mind a hickory barbecue. I'm not as much of a hot. I would go more of a medium sauce if it was like a buffalo.
Okay, and then pizza, pepperoni.
Yeah, pepperoni and sausage. I'm good with that.
Solid. Burger, cheese or plain?
Usually plain, like super plain.
Two pieces of meat patties or one?
One.
Okay, you don't want to screw up. You're not like so. That means you're not a double stuffed guy either, right?
Yeah, correct.
Like the old school Oreos.
Yep.
Okay, I like dry wing stuff. Like the
rubs,
salt and vinegar, the chipotle rubs, the lemon pepper. I like the dry variety. Cheeseburger, always double meat, and then always pepperoni pizza. Always pepperoni pizza. You can keep your tweets coming at Gottlieb Show if you want to get in on this. This is what's really important.
New hot and iced Sunrise Batch Coffee from Dunkin'. A bright and balanced, full-bodied blend brewed so you can get summering from sunrise to sunset. And even after that, because that's when you can show off those string lights you hung in the backyard. Or rehung. Enjoy a medium, hotter iced Sunrise Batch Coffee for $2. America runs on Dunkin'. Price and participation may vary. Limited time offer. Exclusions apply.
Hey, Lori. I'm excited. Season 2 of Dear Therapist starts Tuesday, July 20th.
In Season 2, we're going deep on issues like narcissistic exes, mother-daughter issues,
Instagram cheating, shopping addiction.
So here's our advice to you right now. Subscribe to Dear Therapist on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss a single episode.
We'll see you in session.